So this is people. This is our
How is
very first
everybody doing?
episode. And we are going to ask that everyone out there watching on whatever platform you are watching from, because we're streaming from all of our individual networks, we've come together and we're literally the Black Content Creator Collective. And we are going to be doing projects, different things throughout the course of the upcoming year. But right now, it's all about the political impact of what's happening in our world. And we're streaming. Now, we're going to give you at the very end kind of like some introductions, tell you who we are, how you can find us. But to just jump right into it. We're going to go right into the topics and what we know is on your mind. And what we know to be on your mind, first and foremost, is probably last night's debate and all of the
Yes.
commentary out there. We need you. We need you. Just like Special K says, she says, all the goats, all the goats. I'm indeed a Billy goat. I'm going to tell you who the goat. Special K, you the goat. So we need all of you goats out there to join us and give commentary and drop some comments. If you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on Twitter, wherever you are, comment and engage with us, talk back to us. That's what makes this show a good show. We're going to go right into it, people. I want to know what your thoughts are regarding last night's debates. Who do you feel really delivered something that was meaningful and had and will have a significant impact on the election results? And Kenny, I know this is your bag. You live in it every single day. We're going to start with you.
Look, the best takeaways from last night's debate is liar, liar, JD Vance's ass was on fire. He wouldn't stop lying. Somebody would lie to me with that much confidence is somebody very dangerous to me. It was a clear, stark difference between Tim Walz, who's offering their people a working economy that works for everyone, not just those at the top. Walz was actually giving specific things that actually worked while he was governor of Minnesota and what he was able to do for the American people, and talked about what he was. See, the difference between Walz is Walz could name his accomplishments, but could we name how many policies and what he's been able to deliver for the American people? Can we name what JD Vance has done? Absolutely nothing, because he couldn't even admit to any policy that he was able to implement to help the working people. But there were so many lies, and I just want to go over a few of them. First lie that he started off with when they was talking about the economy. People asked, well, why do you think Americans believe that Donald Trump is good on the economy? The people think that because Donald Trump is a billionaire that somehow he's good for small businesses. He's not. He's filed over 6 bankruptcies. He lost 2.7 million jobs when he was in charge of the country. We lost 2.7 million jobs due to his mishandling of COVID. Not only that, he started a trade war which was horrible for farmers. But let's talk about manufacturing. Under the Biden-Harris administration, since Kamala Harris is a part of this administration, apparently he thinks she's the president. But under the Biden-Harris administration, we were able to create over 800,000 manufacturing jobs under the Biden-Harris administration. Not only that, when he was saying that, oh, well, we're not investing and we're not building chips, we're not manufacturing. How is that possible when we passed the Chips and Science Act and also passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which invests in clean and renewable energy jobs, which will also help when it comes to what's happening with our climate, not to mention the infrastructure bill, which is going to help, especially when it comes to our crumbling infrastructure and the fact that our infrastructure, where it stands right now, is not built to deal with our growing climate crisis. That's number one. Number two, he never answered the question, is he going to separate children at the border? He never answered that question.
Well, Kenny, I want to cycle back though. I want to just because you brought up something I think that everybody really, I know I need to be able to say this, and I know I need to know what to say because it's really bothering me. It's really the fact that everybody keeps saying, well, JD Vance, his continuous retort was, well, you are part of the administration. Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her administration. She isn't the president, but the Trump campaign is trying to make it seem as though she was an incumbent leader, so they can use every single policy that may be unpopular with the American people against her. How do we combat that?
Well, here's
and that's to Kenny, but also to the panel.
Well, I'll just answer real quick. First of all, JD Vance, you're a senator, and you're applying for a job that you don't even know the constitutional authority on what it actually has the ability to do. You're trying to be the vice president, correct? Well, the vice president constitutional authority is only to preside over the Senate and to break a tie-breaking vote if it's a 50-50 split, or to take over the presidency if for some odd reason the president isn't able to, do his authority or do his be able to continue with his term. Now, as far as being the president, she cannot sign a bill into law. That is actually the president of the United States. It goes through two chambers. It goes through the House, goes to the Senate, and then it goes to the president's desk to be signed into law. She is not the president. She's going to be. So, but as far as the policies that have been passed, as far as the Inflation Reduction Act, I don't know how anybody can say that they're not for clean and renewable energy jobs. I don't know how anybody can say they're not for lowering the cost of prescription drugs when it comes to seniors. These are highly popular policies, and we see that on a daily. When we're talking about infrastructure, I mean, just look at what's going down in Georgia and what's going down in these southern states like South Carolina. What we just saw was flooding. We saw dams break. We need investment in our infrastructure, not only when it comes to the growing climate crisis, but to make sure that we're protecting these people so that those dams don't break to where it won't wash people away.
Right.
Anybody else?
I wanted to just give, I know Kenny has said basically a little bit of what it is, but I think people don't have a definition. I wanted to give a definition of the vice president. The vice president is probably best known as a heartbeat away from the presidency, meaning that if a sitting president is unalived or impeached, the vice president takes over. And as Kenny has stated, the vice president's role is the president of the Senate under Article 1, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. So I don't understand how you could be applying for a job and do not know the job description.
Come on.
That took me out.
I mean,
Because the whole time when he was talking about policies, like what policies did Mike Pence have? And I think for me, it was great or whatever. But for me, the moment that JD Vance probably took a breath and a step back is when Tim Walz said, the reason you're here is because he was going to unalive Mike Pence for not doing what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Right? The reason that you're standing here now, JD Vance, is because Mike Pence defied Donald Trump. So if you don't do what it is that he's asking you to do, this could be your situation. So did Donald tell him he's going to make policies? Like, what did he promise him?
Well, maybe because he is the poster child for Project 2025, and he has his hands all over that. Maybe he believes because that is the agenda, and since he's a part of the agenda, that he has the ability to make this happen.
And that he was handpicked by Peter Thiel and the Heritage Foundation to be the torchbearer for the Republican Party, not handpicked by Donald Trump. Let's be clear as to why J.D. Vance is sitting there and why he is the heir apparent to the Republican Party. Tiffany.
Right. He couldn't have told them that he was going to be writing policy because Donald Trump has already said that the vice president means absolutely nothing. I mean, y'all remember what he said. He said the vice president, nobody votes for the vice president. So he couldn't have told them that he was going to be writing policies. It was very interesting to me how J.D. Vance continued to say, Kamala did this, Kamala did that, Kamala did this. She's been there for 3 years. She's not did any of these things that she said she's going to do. But J.D. Vance talks about all of these things. He's been in Congress the same amount of time. He has the ability to write these laws. He has abilities. Yeah. I looked it up last night. J.D. Vance has written 58 bills. 0 have passed at the House and the Senate. He's co-sponsored 288 bills. Okay, 2 of them passed at the House and the Senate, and President Biden vetoed both of those bills, both of those laws, because they were trash. We have to talk about some of the laws that bills that he wrote. One of them was talking about DEI. One of them was talking about after the affirmative action was overturned by the Supreme Court, he wanted for them to for these college to watch college admissions to enforce, not allowing, affirmative action to take place or whatnot. And he wanted to do something like that. So 58 bills he wrote. None of them was on the things he talked about, like child tax credit. None of the daycares. He never talked. He has his whole plan about how to help with childcare prices, but he's written no bills to that effect. So it makes absolutely no sense to me. J.D. Vance is a liar, and he's also a chameleon, and he is an industry plant. I will say this, J.D. Vance can fit into any situation that he is put in because that is what he is designed to do. That is why he is supported by Peter Thiel. That is why he is supported by Project 2025, because JD Vance can literally go into these spaces. How many times has he changed his name? He changes his name to fit whatever situation that he is in. So that's what we must
James Donald Bowman. I mean, that's
okay.
his name. He was born
That's
James
what we
Donald
need to
Bowman.
understand about JD Vance. JD Vance
Wow.
is a liar. He stood there and lied. He gave us word salad after word salad after word salad. The moderators were frustrated with him and had to reiterate several questions. How many questions did they have to reiterate to Tim Walz? Zero, because Tim Walz answered the question. So that's my. I'm sorry, y'all. I went off.
Well,
But that
now
was
we
No, but
love
baby, this
Coach
is what we need.
Tim, but
Yeah, we
but he
need that.
didn't
We
he
need
didn't
that.
answer all the questions. We love Coach Tim, but he did not answer all the questions. However, to the earlier point, which was who won last night's debate, I think the American people won last night's debate, and they won for two reasons. Number one, we finally got to see somebody coherent and civil and have a conversation, albeit the conversation filled and riddled with lies. It was a steady and normal conversation. This is how you normally talk politics with your friends. This is what your dinner table looks like with your inner circle, even if you have differing beliefs, right? So that part was normal. The American people won for that. And then number two, they got to see, in fact, if they were paying attention, just how dangerous JD Vance is. A lot of people were saying that he changed. I don't think he changed. He showed what suburban dollars do when you pay for a debate team study all through middle, all through high school, and all through college. When you go to an Ivy League school, when you go to a top tier school such as Ohio State, you damn sure better come out of that and be able to do what JD Vance did on that stage. And also, let's be very clear, the man ate down, because if Tim Walz delivered like that, if that was Tim Walz style, and he went out there and delivered not the words, but the style in which JD Vance gave it to us, we would have said it was a masterclass, because it was. It was an oratory masterclass. However, there were no truths that came out of his mouth. We know the answer to half the questions that were asked and where they stood on them, and he didn't answer them. And this is why he's there. This man is a politician. It doesn't matter who is on his running ticket. This man is a politician. This is the person that is getting ready to strip your rights. And this man, to Tiffany's earlier point, is a chameleon. He has the training, the knowledge, and at least the brains enough to do that and to get in there and do the things that need to be done to push and further their agenda.
Now we're going to get ready to transition over to our next topic, which is going to be one of the major things that was discussed in this debate, which was the rights of women, reproductive freedom, and the reproductive justice that we're seeking for people like Amber Nicole Thurman and Candy Miller in Georgia. And we're going to go to that. But I want to do one thing that was not done well in last night's debate, and that's a small fact check, Tiffany, and that JD Vance actually is less qualified and has less experience as a senator than VP Kamala Harris, and that this man just made it to the Senate in 2022. This man has been in the Senate for less than 2 full years, and he is already nominated to be the Vice President of the United States of America, having just turned 40 on August the 2nd. So small fact check on that. He is truly going to be one of the most unqualified people ever to be nominated to be Vice President. Of course, we know he will not win. I do want to say, this is somewhere that Ale and I disagree, because I firmly believe that although the media will not give Tim Walz the credit he deserves, his performance was significantly better than JD Vance. Anybody can stand before an audience of any size and make up information and regurgitate it. I could sit here and give you an eloquent speech about how I have been named the American ambassador to Mars. And I can be convincing, I can be eloquent, I can look good doing it. And that's exactly what JD Vance did. The look good part, I think that depends on what world you come from. Maybe you have some magical Mayo mystical powers, and you know who I'm talking about when I refer to the magical Mayo mystical powers, that makes him look better than what perhaps he looks to me in my melanin magic. But that's a discussion for another day. I want to say that what Tim Walz did is what needed to be done. Now, a lot of Democrats, specifically, to be fair, when I say Democrats, I'm talking about people like me, Black people, people who love the clapback, people who love the read, people who love the shade. We wanted to see something delivered in a specific kind of way. But guess what? No matter how Tim Walz did last night, I'm going to vote for the Harris-Walz ticket. he wasn't talking to me. He had a job. He had an assignment to do when he got on that debate stage, and he did that job. And that was to talk to the uncommitted voter. And I say uncommitted as opposed to undecided because nobody's undecided at this point. You are uncommitted. You're not undecided. You want to vote for Donald Trump. You want a reason to not vote for Harris and Walls. You want a reason to feel good about your decision. You want to make it seem like, well, he said this or he did this. He came across angry. He came across loud. He lied. You want a reason to justify your decision to say it's based in reason and not racism. That's what you want. So they're not undecided, they're uncommitted. But the reality is Tim Walz didn't give them that. Instead, he gave them even more reason to vote for the Harris Walz ticket. That was his job, and he delivered on it, and he did a great job of it. JD Vance's job last night was to not be weird, was to look like he's in control and be a nice guy. And he failed miserably when he went off on the two moderators because they fact checked him in real time. That to me is what made the difference between a winner and a loser. And not only is that the determinant of who won the debate, so too comes the actual data that backs up who won the debate. People overwhelmingly who watched the debate said it was won by Tim Walz. Media Spin said it was JD Vance. The New York Times ran a headline saying that this was a great choice for Donald Trump to have made. But then we found out that the person who wrote that headline, who wrote that article, didn't even watch the debate. That article was posted before the debate even happened.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, lazy journalism.
Oh my goodness.
That's not, you can't call that journalism. I'm making a post about that after this. That's going to be my next TikTok, people. And I'm going to make a
But I also want to say that the major part that we differ on is that I don't think that everybody can do that. Again, that's why I think JD Vance is so dangerous, right? Like if everybody could do it, they would have loved Pence in this like weird way that they love Vance. For whatever reason, that audience that he's talking to, not that uncommitted voter, the people that already have his vote, he has their vote, excuse me. They love him in a weird way that they didn't love Pence. And that is why it's dangerous, because he can get out there and he can say his lies in cursive and they will eat it up because he can deliver. His ability to just be a good orator on that stage and just debate well.
He's a snake oil salesman or a used car salesman. That's pretty much what
absolutely. And everybody can't do that in the same way everybody can't do what we're doing. Everybody can't do it, and that's why he's there. However,
I can agree with that.
That's why you have to
be influenced by that. I see what you're saying.
What I walked away from the debate feeling like, and I don't know about y'all, but I wanted to move to Minnesota. I felt like that's what tipped Tim Walz over the top, in my opinion, because he had so many accolades and so many accomplishments that he could outline versus JD Vance had absolutely nothing to go on. He kept going back to Donald Trump, and then he kept on lying. He kept on lying. With the Affordable Care Act, Donald Trump protected the Affordable Care Act. I could have threw my shoe at the television. What did he do? Still talked about that man. John McCain he did try to repeal, and John McCain saved the Affordable Care Act with the iconic thumbs down on the Senate floor. And then Frumpy Dump talked about him after he died, and said that he didn't thank him for the state funeral that he gave him because he was so mad about him not voting against the Affordable Care Act. It is absolutely everything that came out of JD Vance.
But I was really glad that Tim Walz was there in order to say I was there, right? Because JD Vance was not there, and with him saying that I was there, I know what happened and things like that, that made JD Vance like have to turn around and rethink something because he wasn't there, and I feel like in politics like he is, I feel like he's more prepared than his person he's running with. But it's mad. It's just manic. It's horrible.
I mean, so to wrap this up, what do you think that you would have liked to see better happen in this debate? Honestly, I did want more of a pushback from Tim Walz, especially when it came to school shootings, because JD Vance went on record saying that this is a fact of life. And honestly, I would have liked Tim Walz as a teacher to hit him hard where it hurts especially when it comes to that. My other thing is when it came
Because
to reproductive rights, and you
because
saying that, oh, I haven't, I've never supported a national ban. You went on record saying you support a national ban. So I'm just confused. I just wanted more pushback on that, because for those who aren't, into politics or not paying attention, anybody could have easily fell for that trap or fell for that lie from JD Vance, because he's such a good damn sleazy ass liar.
I would have liked to see Wall's fact check in real time. And this is what Zach and I were talking about earlier. And even just the fact check doesn't have to be the same way that Kamala reads. You know what I mean? Because again, they want to take his passion, they want to paint him as angry. So I definitely understand not giving them the paintbrush to paint an ugly picture with.
I mean, but have you seen Tim Walz with that pig? He is so sweet.
I just wish he would have, just like you said some of those things. No, and he did. When it came to Minnesota, he spoke to their health care and where they stand. I just would have liked to see him fact check more in real time. Other than that, I think it was a masterclass in politics on both of their behalves. I do wish, things that I wish would never happen again, is I do feel like Tim Walz was a little too agreeable. I agree with Vance on that. And me and Vance agree on that. We agree on that. We agree. It's like, okay, girl, not too much now. This a political competition. These are your opponents. Back it up. I really didn't like that. But other than that, it was good. It was a great debate. It pushed Kamala up. She gained a point in Michigan. She dropped in the national average, but like, so what? She's up in Michigan. She's still carrying, if you can call it a lead, in Pennsylvania with less than 1 full point. So again, if you're doing the numbers to calculate the polls, which do nothing on real election day, there is a clear path to 270. And so that's all we're here for.
That's true. And I think that that's something that, when you look at it, people want to talk about the national polls, but it's the swing state polls that matter. And it's about getting those reliable swing state polls with a high level of reliability, that's A-rated polls that, you want to look at. And you're looking at, again, what's happening in the blue wall, just for those out there who may not be as versed in it. You're looking at Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. You're looking at the Sunbelt states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia. Now we're adding into the mix North Carolina. Uh, Kamala Harris has multiple paths to the presidency. She has three distinct ways of possibly being president with the Electoral College math. Donald Trump has only one chance. He only has one clear shot, and that clear shot means he has to maintain North Carolina and he has to win Georgia and Pennsylvania. And we consider those both to be blue states because they went blue for Joe Biden in 2020, even though we know the reality is they're not blue states. So as of right now, that's what he's looking at. So he's leading in Georgia up by 2 points, but he is down in Pennsylvania. He has to win Pennsylvania and Georgia and maintain North Carolina in order to be president. One thing that
Just
is
to put
really
some things
hurting
that Zach
him in
said in
regards.
perspective, she is up in all of the other aforementioned blue wall states. She has at least a 1 point lead, with the exception of Pennsylvania, where it's less than a point.
And one thing, Everett Double D. Your crew is amazing in the comments. One thing that is hurting the Trump Vance ticket has been their continuous assaults on the rights of women and reproductive freedom, bodily autonomy, and the right of women to do what is best for their body regarding healthcare. And abortion is indeed a form of healthcare. And so what we saw happen and what we found out that happened in 2022 is that two women in Georgia lost their lives due to Georgia's draconian abortion ban. This bill was called the Heartbeat Bill, and it passed in 2019 down bipartisan lines, signed into law by Brian Kemp in 2019. It could not go into effect, however, because Roe v. Wade blocked the bill from becoming law. As soon as the MAGA Supreme Court that was put in place by Donald Trump overturned Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs decision, this law that was on the books became effective immediately. In that time frame, we know of two women who have lost their lives, although we know that there are others. Double D, with that being said, I turn it over to you because I know that you have some commentary on this.
Last night at the debate, when Tim Walz said if Amber had been living in Minnesota, she would be alive. It was a very telling moment. It actually made me very misty when he said that. The fact that if she had been living, Amber Thurman, if she had been living in in Georgia, in Minnesota, she would be alive. Is it was it was chilling when he said that, and it was absolutely true. So the other day, in Georgia, as we all know, judge that was elected, Robert McBurney, overturned the one of the strictest abortion bans in the United States of America. And Zach just spoke about it, and and explained what it was back in 2019. It was passed, but it was not allowed to go into law, basically until after it was overturned by until Roe v. Wade was overturned. So Judge McBurney basically declared that state abortion ban unconstitutional. And it was really riveting, the things that he wrote in his decision. And I wanted to point to one of those. He said, when a fetus is growing inside a woman reaches viability, when society can assume care and responsibility for that separate life, then and only then may society intervene. An arbitrary 6-week ban on terminations is inconsistent with these rights and the proper balance that a viability rule establishes between a woman's rights of liberty and privacy and society's interest in protecting and caring for an unborn infant. And he also said that women should not be treated as collective property. Their rights should not be treated as collective property. Robert McBurney, again, the judge, he went in this saying, look, we can't have this. We can't have it. And it's been overturned. So now abortions can take place in Georgia up to 22 weeks. They can resume up to 22 weeks. However, we know that this is going to be appealed. So this is why in November we have to vote blue down ticket so that we can retain the Senate, get a larger majority in the Senate, and then also retain, get power back in the House. If otherwise, we're not going to be able to codify Roe v. Wade. These things are good, but we know that this is going to be appealed. We need to codify it and protect abortion rights all over the United States of America.
And only one of these options are promising to do that. Literally, like the other option is saying they're going to ban it nationwide.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about that because I thought it was very important to point that out about voting on your state and local levels. This is what happens. Again, Robert McBurney is an elected official. He's an elected judge. He was not appointed by anyone.
And he's Republican.
And he is. He is a
I want to
Republican.
emphasize, in Georgia, this is a Republican judge. He has been a Republican his entire life, yet he is doing the principal thing and interpreting the law in the way in which the law was written. He also ruled recently that the Georgia requirement of hand counting ballots, you can do that, but you still have to certify the results within a week, no matter what changes the election board makes. Here's the thing that I'm kind of concerned about is that a lot of women in Georgia are very motivated and mobilized around the issue of abortion. With this law now being struck down, I'm concerned that it's going to result in some women, specifically women of a certain background, no longer caring about this election and then voting for Trump and Vance in the state of Georgia. Or am I off base?
No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
I can see what you're saying. But I think nationally, I think the problem is people who have family who live in Georgia, they have family all across the globe, all across the country. So they understand that this is life changing. My sister lives in Texas. I live in Maryland. So just because I live in Maryland and I'm in blue state doesn't mean I'm not going to vote, just to make sure that we can codify Roe v. Wade and put those protections back in place. So that way it can protect my sister if she decides to have an abortion.
I'm talking about white women.
Oh, white women, child.
Let me be clear. Let me be clear.
You didn't see that part.
You didn't say that part.
I did. I said of a certain demographic. What I'm saying is that I believe that white women were mobilized, and for a lot of them in Georgia, this was a singular issue that was pushing them to say, "I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris." With this issue kind of now, even though it's not off the table, let me also clarify that this isn't off the table. Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr is going to challenge this in court, and he's going to win. It's just a matter of when they're going to challenge it. if that makes sense. Like this ban is not on the ban will not last. It's going to be overturned by the other courts, ultimately flipped back by the Supreme Court. That's what's going
He's
to
not going
happen.
to
But
challenge
I
it
can't
before the
say, yeah.
election, though.
That's what
He's
I'm.
not
That's
going
what
to
I'm
challenge
saying.
it before the
But here's
election.
the thing, maybe it's up to us as content creators and people who use our platform. It's up to us to keep reiterating that this isn't a done deal. We have to continue to fight for that right. We have
Every
to
day.
keep that same rhetoric that Coretta Scott King said. You know, freedom is never really won. It's won with every generation going forward. We have to continue to vote and stay engaged in order to protect our civil rights and civil liberties. So we
And
have to continue to keep hammering home the point that you're not safe.
right. I made sure I put on my post today that women's rights are on the ballot more than anything else. I think women are going to be the ones who will really be affected the most out of everybody at
Millie
this
Chang,
point.
give me pause right there. I just got to do a quick fact check. Now,
Okay.
every respectfully, that's not true. And Georgia voted for a Democrat when they voted for Joe Biden. That was the first time in 20 plus
First,
years.
I was
They
about to
did
say the
not.
first time since like
Oh, I'm
77.
not even reading this
Absolutely not.
comment.
Obama didn't win. Obama didn't win. Carry on. I'm sorry, Millie Chan.
No,
I
I'm
believe
saying
you got
that
a fact check.
I was just saying to go with what Kenny was saying. It's very important to reiterate this every day. We're on the internet every day, talking to people every single day, and like one of the people said last night after the debate. At this point, if you don't know who you're voting for, you're being very irresponsible. We cannot be irresponsible with our rights. You know, like I'm past my childbearing years, but I have a daughter that it could affect in the next 10. And I just don't want that for her. And that's who I'm voting for. I'm voting for my child because this is a very serious matter. And it is something that it feels like it's right here for us, but it's very uncertain. And for people to say, I don't know, I haven't heard enough, I don't know the policies. If you're female, you are the policy. You are the person who is on the ballot. Just think if and someone had said to me when Vice President Kamala was talking about the 25,000 for homes and
I'm so upset with you.
6,000 for the children, she was like, "I have a home and I've already had my children." And I had to ask her, "Does your children want children or have children? You are voting for your grandchildren." And I just really and truly, I talk about it every day. I don't know what else to say.
I feel like I just to Millie Chung's point, I don't know what else to say. If you are a woman, whether you are past your childbearing years, the ones that get me, the two that I hear are, oh, I'm voting, or I'm not voting because I'm not a woman or because I don't want kids. I think that's the dumbest thing ever. Over 400,000 women are sexually assaulted every year in the United States alone. That's 1 in 6 women each year. If you got more than 6 people in your family, chances are boom, that was one of your family members too. Hello, big red truck. And so if you don't feel like anybody other than the person who is a victim of that assaulting, or whether they are just making a choice in their own life, shouldn't have the right to make their own choice, you are dumb. It's to a point now, 34 days out, if I'm not mistaken, that certain things don't even matter. Like, what are we talking about? Your economic policies are very important. Border security is extremely important. Healthcare is very important. Education is very important. We're never going to take that away. Also, to the earlier point, JD Vance nor Trump care about the positionings of a vice president because they in no way plan on upholding the traditions of that role. Okay. So it's been that way how they got it, how since Vance has been in there since 1804. Prior to 1804, your vice president was just who was number 2 on the ticket. So help us God, that could have been Trump if we were still there. They don't care about upholding the systems as we know it to be. And so if that bothers you, if the idea of that bothers you, then maybe make the vote this season. And then now that this lunatic won't have the right to run again, will be alive because he's the oldest running person in history. him and Jimmy Carter damn near the same age, and Jimmy Carter the first president to hit triple digits. So just make your decisions how you need to make them. But let's just be real. At the 34-day point, I'm not citing no more policies. Y'all can read them if you wanted to read them. You would have. She been running for over 100 days.
I mean, you're right. She has been, but the reality is 90% of people in America don't watch the news. They
Right.
get their news from sources like trusted content creators like us, and they get it from social media posts from the Shade Room and Neighborhood Talk and things like that. I do want to just spend a very brief period of time talking about Georgia. This is a very I mean, just to be honest, I mean, a young lady in the comments said earlier that pointing out the fact that Georgia is very red and pro-life. I wouldn't say that necessarily that it's very pro-life or very red, but the reality is Georgia is still a red-leaning state.
Right.
What that means, and when I say that is that there was and I should have, I take personal responsibility. There was a whole narrative in 2020 around certain demographics voting and saving democracy. And they did their part. They absolutely did. But the reason why you have John Ossoff and Senator Raphael Warnock in the United States Congress, two Democratic senators, isn't because the Georgia mentality and ideology has shifted. It's because, one, there were really bad candidates running against them. There was a whole lot of anti-Trump sentiment then that isn't here now. And because white women in suburban parts of Atlanta shifted their votes and who voted for Brian Kemp for governor, then voted for these two men to be our senator. So that is the big shift, and that's the big difference. And in order for Kamala Harris to win this state, we need those exact same white women to make that exact same decision, because we have seen other parts of the very reliable Democratic base in the state of Georgia pull away from the Democratic Party. So we've got to have those women stand with democracy and freedom in their own best interest and vote for Kamala. And if they choose not to do it, if they choose other things and other issues that matter to them more over that, there's no way she will carry this state and win those 16 delegates. And I hate to say it, but these are things that aren't being said for a lot of reasons. And I'm like, this is what I do. So I'm going to have to say, I had to say it.
No, there are as many pathways as there are to 270 for Harris. There are just that many for Trump. And you also have to think Trump has a cult-like base. And this time around, before it was mail-in ballots are fraud. Last election, it was mail-in ballots are fraud. This year, if you go back and you pull the clips, he is leaning very heavily on mail-in ballots. So now that I believe the voter registration deadline is the 15th, ballots have already went out to military people and people abroad. So as we begin to see those numbers actually come in, you'll get to see the way that these states, the numbers shift very, very quickly. And again, with mail-in ballots, you can go two ways. We can know very quickly and very clearly, which is what happened last election. We knew where the bulk of the mail-in ballots were, so that we kind of hit a brick wall on the pathway to 270. And then you were trying to piecemeal it together with states that are worth like 1 and 2 points there in the Electoral College. But there's a lot of states with a lot of small numbers, and them small numbers count on the way to 270.
Literally, people in some precincts, because I was on a call about the election math, literally 2 voters in one, like in a designated precinct area, is going to make a difference. Like 2 people showing up or 2 people voting a certain way will shift, and that's historically in these battleground states. That's how close it's going to be, and why every single vote matters. People, when they say that, you will see Donald Trump won Georgia by 11,000. I mean, Joe Biden won Georgia by 11,788 votes. That seems like a large number to us when you look at the millions upon millions of people in the state. It's not a large number. It's an even smaller number when you look at how certain precincts voted. The fact that you have a precinct where 2 people voted for Joe Biden, and therefore that he carried that precinct, and that gave valuable data to people who look at this as they prepare for the years ahead. All of that matters. Every single vote this year will absolutely matter, especially in those
Zooming in
battleground
even
states.
tighter, you in Georgia, you were down to Clayton County and Henry County, which were the final 2 counties that ended up flipping the state. You in South Georgia, waiting that they waited for that precinct to close to call those votes last election.
Right. Well, and Everett, here's what I'm saying. Like I want to, because my good friend Deidre up here, I don't know, but she finna be my good friend. I think she's Double D's good friend. She's somebody's good friend, but now she my good friend.
Believe that.
She pointed out and she said about, I voted for Stacey Abrams. That's what I'm talking about. I worked, as did Kenny, for the Stacey Abrams campaign. We were in the state in the midnight hour, fighting hard out here in the streets, getting these votes. And what happened was there was a whole entire voter disenfranchisement effort where a lot of black people stayed home because they thought we had it in the bag because of early voter turnout numbers. And also there was a significant drop in black men who came out for Stacey Abrams, and therefore Brian Kemp won. If Stacey Abrams had been the governor of Georgia, Amber Thurman and Kennedy Miller would probably still be alive today because she would not have allowed that abortion ban to be signed and go into law. It would have been vetoed. So that's what's at stake in this election. Those are the things that matter. And so just because Georgia voted for Joe Biden then, I'm not seeing right now indication that that's going to happen. I want it to happen. I'm not saying this because I don't want it to happen. I'm saying it because we have work to do. We need to get off our asses and do that work. We have to put
Right.
in the work. We have to get out here and find these voters. We have to get out here and change hearts and minds. We have to get out here and educate in the state. Georgians will vote blue. They will vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, but there's work that has to be done that we haven't done that we've got to do.
So what
I
do
have a
y'all see
question
on
for
the
you
grounds
guys.
in Georgia as far as ads and what you're seeing when you're actually talking to your everyday people? Just tell
The
me
ads
what
are out there. Their ads are coming every single day for both candidates. Trump ads that tell
Right.
lies, and you have
Right.
Harris ads that are telling the truth. But her ads aren't attack ads. Her ads are policy ads about what she's going to do for the American people. The Trump ads are all attacking Kamala. I get in my mailbox every day about 3 pieces of mail from the Trump campaign targeting black male voters that are all
Wow.
lies. I take a picture of them every day and send it to my friend in Texas saying, you see, because he didn't believe it. Today I found out that the Trump campaign increased their ad spend for the final month of the campaign by multiple millions of dollars because they are fighting with everything they have to win this state. So it's just a continuous disinformation campaign that's unregulated, that's flooding the airwaves.
So what are you hearing from the people though, the actual voters, the person
I've
who
just
actually?
told you what I'm hearing from the people. That's why I'm not optimistic right now, Kenny. I just told hear me. Like, what I'm saying?
No.
Stop searching. I'm just being honest. Look, stop digging for hope because I'm making it clear what the reality is. I'm sorry. I don't want it to be. But hear me clear. What I'm saying isn't based on bullshit. It's based on what I'm out here hearing. And I'm asking
Yeah.
people that I need to ask. I don't want to do this. I'm asking people that I know I need to ask what their thoughts are, and I'm not getting the response I want to get. Just an example, a friend of mine, somebody in the comment talks about Pennsylvania. I asked a white man who I know in Pennsylvania who lives in Erie what's going to happen, and he said it's very much real. It's tied. It's 50-50. I see Harris Walls, I see Trump Vance, I have
Mhm.
white family members voting one way, I have other family members voting the other way. The polls that I'm seeing tend to mirror what I'm hearing. And as of today, Donald J. Trump is going to win Georgia. I'm not saying he's going to win it in November because that hasn't come. We can still do
Right.
this. But as of
Right.
today, this state is not going to go to Kamala.
I listened to
My
Kamala's interview with All in the Smoke podcast, and
child, all the smoke.
All the Smoke podcast. It was, I thought it was a really good one. I don't know when they actually did that, but I went into the comments. The comments were devastating. Like there was not.
But they were
Maybe I
probably
read
biased.
stuff.
They may not have been real. They may not have been real.
You can't
I
go off
mean,
of what you see on
there
social
was
media. Social
no, no,
media
no.
is based off
I
of
understand that, but I'm just saying whatever it was horrible. I thought it was a really good thing, but a lot of people said was she kept saying middle class. Now that's what gave me the bot situation that you're talking about because they were like, let me guess, she's middle class. But I don't think that people are really understanding the middle class that you are the middle class. She is like JD Vance didn't say anything about the middle class. Donald Trump doesn't say anything about the middle class. The
They
middle
don't have.
class is who's going to get hit the worst. And even the middle class who are undecided, I understand how you feel about a woman, a black woman, or whatever, whether you are living in the Hollywood Hills or you living in a trailer in the backwoods. I get it, right? You feel how you feel. But at the end of the day, Don't you want to come out of the backwoods? Don't you want a chance to do something? Like it is crazy how they use something like when she's saying I'm from middle class, she's relatable. Donald Trump is not even relatable. And he's not
Well,
even
he's not
speaking to you.
relatable and it's not real.
He's not even speaking to the people. Like I just don't even understand. And the fact is, and it's so crazy because you
Oh,
hear
yeah,
like
he's
little
speaking to the
chatter
people.
in the background, you hear people talking, and you can pass by and hear a conversation, and they're like, well, not that Kamala. And I want to turn around and say, well, why not that Kamala? Why not? What is your reason
Turn
other
around and
than
have
she's a
that
black woman?
conversation. Turn around and
So
have that conversation. I
that,
Well,
did
that
that
that's
with Omar just the other day.
I
I mean,
literally
that's the part. Like, I'm willing to have these conversations. When I have these conversations, when I get a lot of pushback, because when I speak to, even though I'm not supposed to, even on the job and on the clock, I'm not supposed to be
yeah,
talking politics. But as
I
soon as
can't.
somebody starts talking crazy or start, feeding into misogynistic or racist undertones or xenophobic undertones, I shut it down immediately. But I don't shut it down with, as combative I am on as online. What I do is I
Right,
empathize and I connect the dots and also incorporate who they are, their identity, what they go through, and how these policies are going to negatively impact them, and how the Harris Walls campaign has something that's substantive that will benefit them and protect them and actually
right.
make their lives
I can
easier.
verify that
That's
Kenny does that.
what.
He's an excellent like counselor type when it comes to like trying to like dig deep to understand why people feel the way they feel.
See, that's why I was trying to see, Zach. You thought I was like, oh, I'm trying to see what conversation did y'all actually have. See, that's why I try to get to the root of it. I'm one of those people that I can't stop until I figure out, okay, why do you feel this way? All right, let's figure out what your pain points
They
are
don't have an
and let's deal
answer.
with it. I'm a problem solver. So when we're
They don't have
talking
an
about this, that's why I need to be on the road. I can't wait until I do this tour. So
They don't have an answer.
They
no,
don't have an
I'll
answer, but
go.
that's why that women's to Zach's earlier point, the white women's vote is so important. This again, we haven't heard it in a minute coming on mainstream, but their campaign slogan is "Make America Great Again." It was great for white women. No, could they get credit cards on their own? Absolutely not. Did they need their man to sign for that? Yes, they did up until the 70s. Could they get their own house? No. Could they have their own bank account? No. But who cared? They had enough money for Adderall and all of the shiny cleaning products and to go to jazz aerobics. It was a really good time for them. That's what we're
Yeah.
fighting against because the men in their house,
55% of white women voted for Donald Trump in 2020, I believe it was 55%.
even
So
if it's
we got a
because
little
they
bit.
man said you better, it's a different landscape for them. It's a different outview for them. And so if your life don't look like JD Vance and his wife, if you don't look like if your husband work at Costco and he can't retire you to be no stay at home wife, you know what I'm saying? It might not be a good time for you under that
It may
reign because that's
not.
exactly what it is. And I don't know which one of y'all said they're not who they're talking to. They don't have to talk to anybody. Again, this man is getting ready to create a monarchy. He's not leaving. They're not leaving. They don't have to talk. They just have to, from their point of view, get in. The rest of that,
I mean,
the cookie
there's
will
some
crumble how
great
it will.
questions being brought up into the chat, and I definitely want to honor that while also kind of keeping pace and staying on time. Uh, people are talking about Florida. I agree. Florida is in play. Like there's work being done in Florida, good work from a good leadership team of Democrats right now that they haven't had that state as organized in a long time. So shout out to Nikki Fried and her team for what they're doing because Florida is somewhat still, I think it's in play. I think it's a long shot, but I'm glad that money has to be spent there to keep it competitive.
Right.
And we want to burn up all the money that we can that Trump has so that because he doesn't have it, Kamala does. The money is there for her. It's been donated in. And so one thing too that people are kind of talking about and some things that's being put here in the chat. And I want to
Now,
kind of
how we
turn.
gonna say that when Coach Wall's white? And we talking
Everett,
about politicians. We
I'm
ain't
gonna have to
had
get
no
on
black
you now.
president other than
Everett,
Obama. What is y'all talking about? We is on
this
number 47. If
you
they
have to
white, it
understand.
ain't right. white. It's been
You have to
white. God
understand.
forbid
You
It's
have to
people
always
understand.
been
change.
white.
Everett is like that, man. He's black and he
Oh,
black. Leave him alone. Everett, just calm down, player. Just calm down. Every video,
he black
he's
and
black and he
he
Yeah,
black.
he
He
Everett.
first
understand
What
one
that.
what what
struck
part of
as
Georgia is
illegal.
Everett? What part of Georgia are you
I
in?
don't
Let me know
know, but
what
all I
part of
know
Georgia.
is
The
every video
lane
He
I
said
from
he
make,
was
will
agreeing.
be
He
in
he's
the
said he was
part where you
agreeing.
can't go
black
outside
and he black.
freely. It'll be the part
Black and he
that
black.
the sundown
Okay.
town again. I bet you that.
Let me. Is this Helene right here?
Yes, this is Hurricane Helene,
Um.
which came
Yeah,
through
that's
and
So
devastation.
Good Lord.
so today, President Biden he's in the Carolinas. I think he was in South Carolina. He was in Greenville for a little bit, but he flew over Asheville because Asheville can only be um, you can only get there by air. It is totally devastated. The roads are washed out, and he's going to send in the Defense Department to deploy up to a
Mm-hmm.
thousand active duty soldiers to reinforce the North Carolina National Guard for help. And also, I just need everybody to know that's in the Carolinas. There is another hurricane, a brewing Hurricane Kirk, and
Gosh, we can't
whatever
take no
you're
more.
doing or whatever you've done, if you have lights at this point, it's time to get started getting yourself back together because it is on the way, and it'll
I
be
will
on the
say
way here
this:
soon.
it won't be bad.
So,
Listen. I know
yeah,
my
but
people.
I was glad to see the president here, and I was
Oh
glad to
yeah.
see sending in troops and everything. But it's going to be a mess in Carolina, and I think they can early vote right now. I'm not sure if they are
Look, I'm gonna
ready,
tell you right
but
here.
y'all
They
need to
can't.
get out and do this along with getting all your things done.
It's definitely going to impact the results of North Carolina's election because again, people our survival is superseding anything else for those people. Now, so it's going to impact it. But I just want to say, look, y'all ain't got to worry too much about Hurricane Kirk. Just I give you my word. As a Kirk, I know how we are. Now I've known a lot of Helens, and Helens whoop ass. Helens, the let me tell you about
Helene,
Helens. But see, now I don't know no Helene. I'm black, so I know Helens. Aunt Helen, cousin Helen. Cousin Helens are short. No, listen, Helens are short women. They're short women who pack a punch and they come through and they raise hell and they go home with a smile on their face and they sleep good at the end of the night. So I expected the worst from Helene because, she was real fancy, but, that's cousin Helen. But when it comes to Kirk's, they're going to be moderately mild. They're going to come in, they're going to make you think they're
yeah,
going to do some stuff. But at the end of the
And
day,
so
they're
now
real
that
nice
means you
feels
people.
think
like
you moderately mild. That's what
Yeah,
you're saying now.
no,
Them
I'm
your
that's not
very,
true.
pronouns.
That's
I'm
not
like
that's not you.
a warm hug. I'm like a warm hug, and I expect
Okay,
Hurricane Kirk to be
okay.
like,
A
Kirk
warm
will
hug from a
be. I think
cactus with a flower
Kirk is
on top,
not going to
please.
cause a lot of devastation. I think we're going to have one solid day of thunderstorms. That's what I've been reading. That's what I've been looking at.
that
So
sounds
because
right.
This
I'm in
flooding, there could be a problem when it comes to that because a few
oh
big
yeah,
dams
it's
open.
gonna be back on top of it. Like so, people who have just got lights like last week or today, y'all just get ready and just be prepared. It's gonna be more rain, and if you are able to leave, you need to go and fill your tanks up and maybe fill up a gas jug. I don't know, child. You need to do something.
Cece said, "Or are you black and mild?" And that's what you is.
Yeah. So but the big thing that came from Hurricane Helene in terms of like the seriousness of the news issue was the confusion that was brought to the American people between the federal response given by President Biden and what was stated to be and proven to be unequivocally false by Donald Trump. I don't know if you guys have seen this image where this is literally in
Valdosta.
Valdosta,
Mhm.
Georgia. Okay, in Lowndes County, Valdosta, Georgia. It's a border county, and that's one of my districts or places that I support in terms for work. And this is a damaged building, and so the people who work here, whether they were asked to or on their own voluntarily, did it. Made him a makeshift podium of bricks from the damaged building, so he could have a nice talking space for his photo op with Billy Graham and Kelly Loeffler. I was baffled by it. I was baffled that this was that
Y'all's
he's using
president's
this
a
national disaster as a photo op, and I was also surprised that he would lie about the government's response when
Yeah.
the governor of Georgia, before he even got to Valdosta, came out and said the response was very. He was appreciative for how quickly President Biden responded.
You wasn't surprised. This
President
man
Biden
Yeah.
threw
signed.
paper towels at them people. You was not
President
surprised.
Biden is
President
the
Biden signed.
president.
President Biden signed
He
the
is the
disaster.
president. He's supposed to respond.
What you say, Tiffany?
President Biden declared a state of emergency immediately and opened up the floods for them to get the funding that they needed. So far, it looks like they have over 1.9 million meals ready to go. They have 35 personnel across the federal
Mm-hmm.
networks right now. And let's see, what's the other one? Right now, they're saying and they're offering people to apply for public assistance through FEMA. And if anybody's watching right now, if you have the ability to watch this right now and you know any family that's in there and needs assistance right now, you can go to disasterassistance.gov or you can call 1-800-621-3362 if you need assistance.
I did have a question for y'all, and I did my little research and I asked my connect, and I keep getting all around the mulberry bush. Now, how is the port strike going to affect disaster relief efforts?
Well, so that's a good question. I know, El, you have some background on that, so I'm going to defer it back to you shortly. But I do want to say one thing I've seen in research is that the port strike is going to have an immediate effect only on fresh goods like bananas because they come through the port of Baltimore. A lot of goods that people are kind of worried about, they may not come through the East Coast because there are multiple port entries, and only the port entry on the East Coast are the ones on strike. The actual new negotiated deals for those people on the West Coast they already made deals. They've already agreed to deals. It's this side of the country that hasn't made the deals. And there's certain goods that only come in on that side, like bananas. So we will have a banana shortage. So if you love bananas, you just got to have bananas. You need to get them right away because you ain't going to have them for a couple of weeks, maybe even months. But in regards to like something else that comes through there is like sugar. People are worried about a shortage of sugar because that's also something that comes through the port of Baltimore that's not going to be closed. But there is a mass surplus in stores. Now, you may have an increase in price, but you always have a lot of food items in American stores that go bad. So I think immediate response as in the next month will be not hugely seen, a slight increase probably in prices, but it could be a benefit to some businesses because surplus will be sold. So they're going to make
Right.
money on surplus that would have been destroyed. And I
Right.
do believe that between now and the end of the election season, we should have a deal brokered, is what my hope is, especially now that we see the connections made between the president who failed to negotiate with the businesses and Donald Trump. We now know that they are friends and that there's a lot of ties between them. I think that's going to put pressure on this president from his members who may feel like they were bamboozled. But I know, your dad is a part of this, so he may know more. So tell me what you know.
So, my question was more so, I guess I should have been more specific. It was more so to the construction part of it. So, the ports, as it stands right now, if they cross their fingers, we're able to get this done within the next week to 2 weeks. Like you said, we wouldn't see any shortages, any increases. Again, this is something that people prepared for. Walmart, Amazon specifically went ahead and made sure they had backstock and all of that. The issue now becomes is if we run into the third week of it all. So the East Coast port where that's on strike currently is responsible for about 65% of alcoholic beverages that come in, which is like not a big deal, but it also is a big deal. It's part of the economy. A lot of the fruits and produce that people are worried about do come in on trucks, so that's not an issue besides the bananas. But a lot of the construction, a lot of your wood, a lot of your steel comes in through the East Coast port. So I don't know how that's going to go as it pertains to the connection between the president and Trump. There are ILA union members who do feel like this strike happened to kind of spite Kamala Harris, and they don't like that. However, automation in this is very big. So again, to your earlier point, the West Coast and the East Coast, and I don't know if it's on purpose, but they are on opposite schedules. So last year around this time, the West Coast negotiated their 6-year contract, so they're out of the way, they're taken care of. And as you know, you can't strike with an contract agreement on the table. East Coast is now fighting for it. So one of the biggest parts was automation. The money, not so much. They're asking for $5 per hour. The average longshoreman makes $39 an hour and works an average of 100 hours per work week.
Ooh.
Yeah. So one of the things that the president of the ILA said is we work stronger and harder from 2020, from 2020, excuse me, to 2024. 2023, the companies that benefit because of the East Coast port and the Gulf Coast port made a surplus of $400 billion. That was record to date. They had not seen earnings like that, taking them back into the 50s. And so these men are asking for $5 extra an hour over every year for the next 6 years. Not a big
And it's
problem.
deserved.
Where the problem comes in is automation. So on the West Coast, where they've signed this deal, they have a lot of automated ports. Slim Thug actually reposted a video on his Instagram of what an automated port, fully automated port looks like. So when they went to the table with negotiations, the company Maritime gave them their $5, but what they wanted now was to have a say. The corporate wanted to have a say in everyday absentee infractions and all of that. So the second you, Zach, or Kenny are late for work, now this is automatically flagged up to the CEO. And of course, people saw through that. You just want to be a part of this so that you can hammer down these harsh rules. And by the time the 6 years is up, you done fired everybody. So you might as well be automated, because the second they, 3 times you're late, boom, now you're fired and you're
Corporate
replaced with
greed. Corporate
yeah,
greed.
they're just going to push it through. And so the port, listen, in Jersey, it keeps it running. It keeps these things thumping. And so I do think that this is going to go on. And now, I don't know if y'all call this silver lining or what, but there does get to a point. I don't remember how many days they have to strike. The government can step in and issue what is a TAF. Now, that is only a 90-day work order. So what would happen is they would send the port workers, the longshoremen, back to work for 90 days. They would have to do their job to the best of their ability as normal. And then after that, if they have not reached any negotiation, they can go back to the picket line. And then that would go over and over again. So they're kind of not allowed to just tank the economy, but it is a big deal.
I mean, that was really good insight and good information. So I mean, I didn't know it to that level. And again, I'm very pro union. And I'm regardless, like that's on the members. Whatever the president relationship is with Trump, they ain't got nothing to do with me. Like if the members voted for this and the members support this, I stand behind those members.
Absolutely.
$5 a year for the next 5 years and increasing the salary, increasing their pay by $20 when the profits have been astronomical. It's no question. They
One of
should
the
have given them
CEOs,
their raise. They should have given them a raise and let it be, and we wouldn't have these issues. Now,
Mhm.
I want to say, I do know that more comes to the Port of Baltimore besides bananas. I was just saying they're going to be rotten soon, right? So there is no surplus of bananas. So that's an immediate right now. That's what you'll feel. But the other things, you won't feel it immediately, but you will feel it if this goes on past a couple of weeks.
Well,
one of
Zach
the
was concerned
CEOs that
about
actually
that.
benefits from that gave himself a $4 billion raise and then split it amongst his family. So that was kind of one of the things that pushed the needle for like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do this.
So, with that being said, we have come to the conclusion, people, of the show. I want to know from you guys who are watching, if you have any unanswered questions or things that you really want us to hit on that we haven't hit on. I want you to jump in. I want you to hit on that. We're going to give each person here a chance to tell you who they are and what they do and how you can follow them on social media. And we'll also kind of let anyone who wants to share from the panel talk about why we're doing this and kind of like what our motivation is and why we care so much about this, why we're kind of coming together, even though we may not give this kind of content every single day on our platforms. So we'll share and then we'll answer any questions that we get throughout the chat. And we'll start, Elle, with you because you're already up.
I'm gonna throw to Millie. She's the reason we all came together, so I'm gonna let her go first and introduce it and kick it off because I feel like the reason and the why starts with her.
Well, I was going to let Millie Chan go last, but you can flip it.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So y'all
I'm
put
out
me
of
on
order.
spot.
Well, I wanted something that could get some information out to people because I was in conversations with people and they felt like we didn't have an option. And we always have an option. And we only have one option. So I knew that Zach and Kenny and Tiffany were phenomenal in what they were doing. I knew that Elle was knowledgeable about the pop culture, how the election affects the pop culture, and I appreciate you all coming together because you're like-minded, you're focused, you're driven, and I just absolutely have a love for all of you. So I appreciate all of you being here and sharing what you know because I learned a lot from you all, and I know that others will learn a lot also. So I just appreciate you all being here.
Sorry. Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Baby, I'm a little bit discombobulated. My little baby boy's little nose was bleeding just a second ago, so I had to jump off. But
Oh no, is he okay?
oh, he's all right. He's got a little sinus deal going on right now. You know how
Oh
that goes with
no.
the little ones. The weather
Mm-hmm.
is changing. But everybody knows who I am. I'm Double D Mother with the Black Accurate News, or I'm black and the news is always petty as hell, but accurate. I've been doing this for some years now, giving political news, and then I kind of do a little bit of pop culture, entertainment, anything black. Double D is likely involved because I'm blackity black over here. I'm doing this. You know, I got y'all know I got my babies. Everything I do is for my kids. With respect to having a daughter, like Milichan stated earlier, she I need to fight for her rights because ain't no more babies coming up out of here. So I got to fight for her rights. And I just thought, you know, in the black community, again, I'm blackity black. Everything's black. Um, when we're speaking about voting and when we're speaking about the importance of it, I think it's been lost in the sauce for quite some time when it comes down to voting and understanding the vote and how it matters. And I think they need to bring back civics expeditiously. So when I speak, I try to speak to my people, and I like to speak in a way that they can understand it. I want to bring them in. I want to make them laugh, and I also want to make it entertaining. That is my whole goal to get my people to understand how important it is for them to exercise their right to vote. There will never be a day where it is not important for you to vote on your state and local and federal level. Every election that comes up, you should be making your voice heard. All of the people that directly impact you, judges, chief of police, district attorneys. All of these people impact you in your everyday life. If they don't impact you, they are impacting somebody in your family. They're impacting your
Right.
neighbor. So why not understand how important it is for you to vote? So that was the motivation for beginning to talk about politics. And also, I just can't stand Frumpy Dump. Y'all know how I feel about him. He's got many nicknames when it comes down to Double D.
We know.
Um, I'm supporting Kamala Harris in this election because I feel like she is the change that we all need. She is the joy that we all need. Kamala is 100% more qualified than Donald Trump will ever be on his best day. More qualified than what JD Vance will ever be on his best day. And I'm supporting her because I know that she's going to do it and she's going to get this job done. So I'm willing to do anything I can do to help her. And that's why I'm here with these amazing people on this side over here because they believe in what I believe in. So we're gonna stick this thing out and get it done. I'm done.
So, Kitty, I'm going to save you for last. I just want to say, everybody, I'm Zachary Kirk, the Zactivist on all platforms, and I'm relatively new to really creating specific content for YouTube. So, I would appreciate a follow on the platform. I have literally like the lowest amount of people watching from my platform because it's a small platform, but I'm growing it. I'm giving continuous and consistent content on the platform 3+1 Media. I've been doing this for a very long time, fighting and combating misinformation. I'm an educator by trade. I have a terminal doctoral degree. I did 17 years of public education before going over to the private sector of education. And that's where I currently work. I'm a content creator. There was a question asked by our friend Everett from Dougherty County. And he said, how can we trust you? How do we know that you're being accurate and fair? We don't make money from this. We're not getting things from this. If you think that the likes, clicks, and views that we get on social media is actually paying bills, then you're looking at or thinking about a totally different type of content creator. Content creators who fight misinformation, content creators who correct disinformation, content creators who are putting themselves out here to do the public service of educating the community, suffer a lot of hardships and it's immense sacrifices, and it definitely doesn't come with financial compensation at the level in which we deserve. But we're doing it because we believe it is necessary, and it's the work that we feel is that we're called to do for our people, for the communities that we are a part of, in the same way that our ancestors were called to do it, in the same way that their ancestors were called to do it. Progress is a continuous fight. Progress is a continuous struggle, and it's one that we make on a regular basis. You can follow me again here on YouTube, because I really want the follows on YouTube, because TikTok hopefully will be gone very soon. So please do follow me right here on the YouTube, 3+1 Media, ZK, or the Zactivist of 3+1 Media if you want to type it out. Good content coming. I have 2 videos in the queue, getting ready to post them, one tomorrow, then also one Saturday. So some good stuff coming up. And you can also find me on TikTok at Zactivist, Zactivist, and Instagram at The Zactivist. And on Twitter, if you like Twitter, at Zachary K, ZACKORYK.
Hey everyone, my name is Kenny, better known as Two Raw to Real on all platforms, whether you can find me on Instagram, where you can find me on Twitter, where you can find me on my stomping ground, which is Twitter. I use my platform to combat misinformation and get people engaged. You can find me whether I'm reading people down or lifting people up when it comes to highlighting politicians and the policies they're actually doing as far as implementing them for the American people to try to help us. I'm an open book. I've pinpointed policies that actually impacted my life, whether it came to infrastructure or when it comes to healthcare. But my main thing is making sure that people are engaged and civically educated on the facts, and making sure that I'm always providing and citing my sources regardless of whatever happens. I'm just not going to be speaking off of rhetoric. I'm going to actually be giving you something that you can actually read and actually be able to digest in something that's substantive that you can share with your family. But again, you can follow me on Two Raw to Real on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, or you can find me on Threads, which is new. I'm trying to expand my YouTube as well, because TikTok may be going down, like Zach said. So you can follow me there too at Two Raw to Real Entertainment. I'm going to start going live, but right now I'm trying to focus. And thank you, Mellotron, for bringing all of us together, because it was literally you that made all of this happen. So I'm glad that you reached up to me on my DMs and got me involved with everybody here on this panel. But we only have like 33 days until the election. It's ride or die right now. It's do or die right now. And your vote matters. And you need to bring your friend. You need to talk to your family, talk to your coworker, talk to your neighbor. Try to get everybody as much as you
Thank
possibly can.
you.
Okay, because it's life threatening right now. And don't think that you're just voting for yourself. You're also voting for others. And your vote could be a life or death sentence, like what we saw recently when it came to Marcellus Williams. Your vote is actually impactful. And we need somebody on all levels, whether it be your state, your local, because all elections matter.
And L, because we started with L, we end with L.
I'll go this time. Thank you. I am here. I'm new to the political content world. I'm very much not new to ingesting it. I am very much, as my husband likes to call me, a political geek. I love it all. More than that, I love the tea. So normally on my page, I do pop culture, reality TV, but there is nothing juicier than some politics, baby. And I decided to, answer the call from Millie Chime, because not only myself, I spent 14 weeks on bed rest when I was pregnant with my daughter, but when I was rushed to the hospital after going to get her gender scan and the doctor telling me, congratulations, you're having a girl, please go to the hospital. I ended up with a doctor at the foot of my bed, literally yelling at me because I would not take the steroid medicine that he thought that I should take just in case I went into early labor. So much so that my husband had to kick him out of the room. I can't imagine living in a world where that man could have just given me the medicine because that's what he felt like was the best course of action for me. I can't imagine living in a world where, God forbid, my daughter has similar issues to me, the same issues as me. And again, she's not able to make a choice for her body. I can't imagine a world where, God forbid, my pregnancy didn't go to full term as it did. I gave birth on the 39th day or the 39th week to the day. I can't imagine a world that I didn't get the help that I needed, because this pregnancy didn't see it to the end. We take for granted on a regular basis the billions of things that has to go right in a woman's body for there to be a healthy pregnancy. If one of those billion things goes wrong, it should be your right and your decision what you're going to do with it. And I feel like we have to talk about that. I'll be completely honest and saying I'm one of those voters who I vote, child, because I know my ancestors was out there fighting for my right. I just can't throw that down the toilet. But I can't tell you in all days or all spaces that I believe my vote counts. I am one of those voters that thinks the electoral college is so dumb and we need to eradicate it. But you can only make decisions about the food that you're being served at a table if you're sitting at the table to even be served the food. So I vote. That's my why. You can follow me on Instagram at Just El Mirasaki, the same here on YouTube, or you can follow me over on Twitter. I like to play in those streets and I like to get canceled very often. So come join the mess, child. It's El Mirasaki over there.
I want to say that I feel as though Everett can certainly come over and bring the Black Red News tea to us at any given time on any given day. With that being said, everybody, we will be back and we will see you next week on Wednesday, same time, same places. Come back to the streams that you join and tell others to join you. Thank you guys so much. And
Thank you so much, chat, for being here.
Everett, I'm putting up a post specifically for you, sir. We're talking after this live.
And Willie Channel 8 on TikTok and Willie Channel on Instagram. And I just want to thank you to this amazing, formidable panel. I love
this
y'all.
is every week, so this is going to be every week. So we will see you guys. We'll see you soon.
On the count of three, I go do. That's the post.